Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
Okay, a follow-up that I didn't think, I thought this was done. I guess it's not done. And apparently we haven't been following the story closely enough because Cosby is suing the 8th woman now. The eight accusers. Let's keep in mind there are more than 50 accusers.
Right.
So
8 of them were absolutely dishonest in the allegations they made against Cosby. The other 42 were spot on, but 8 of them were definitely lying.
I'm not really sure how to interpret this, or if all 50 plus are going to be sued. How does he come up with which one to sue first?
Right.
I don't know. Anyway, that's what's going on now. And earlier this month, I guess he took action against 7 other women. Of course, the claims are that these women lied. He has denied the accusations. And this newest lawsuit here against model Beverly Johnson claims that Johnson defamed him and intentionally inflicted emotional distress.
Right.
Mr. Cosby, is a quote here, Mr. Cosby states he never drugged the defendant and her story is a lie, said Representative Monique Presley.
Right. She drugged herself. He just put the drug in her drink. She drank it, though.
Well, of course, there are some claims by Cosby and his representatives that there was some type of, that some of the accusers were seeking financial gain.
Right.
So, I don't know. Are 40 of these true and 10 others thought that they could make some money off it?
Obviously, we can't. I was joking when I said that, but it is interesting. Which ones has he chosen to sue? It might have to do with the timing of the claims they made. It might have to do with picking the ones that made the most specific or egregious claims. I don't really know what the logic is. Maybe it's also which ones would be best to just get to go away by scaring them with a lawsuit.
In this case, perhaps it's because she wrote an article in Vanity Fair, and you know the article goes on to say she was invited to the house. He drugged her coffee allegedly, and that. So here we have it written. Maybe that is part of this. Maybe it's libel. I don't know.
Yeah.
But in a statement, Johnson said, in cases of rape and abuse, abusers will do whatever they can to intimidate and weaken their victims, to force them to stop fighting. And I didn't know this was still going on. I mean, it seems like the statute was expired on basically all of these cases and there was nothing that could be done, right?
Well, as far as the criminal charges against Cosby, yes,
Yeah.
but a lot of these women have recently made statements, so that's open game for a libel or defamation suit. And
Right.
The thing is, if one of these women says, "Oh, I'm going to recant my story as a result after the lawsuit," is that proof that Cosby didn't do it? Obviously not. All it is proof that after Cosby sued them, they decided the best path forward was to recant the story. But that could be for financial reasons. It could be for publicity reasons. It wouldn't really prove anything.
Well, we'll follow it. I don't think much is going to happen here. Do you think that he'll have any success with any of these lawsuits?
I find it hard to imagine.
Yeah. Well, all right. We'll see. I tend to agree. No indictments in the Sandra Bland case as ruled by a jury. Now, Sandra Bland was the woman who was basically left alone in a cell in Texas, and, well, she died. There was video of, I believe there was video of both the arrest and there was video of the actual jail cell. Was that this case?
I think it was, yeah.
Okay, so there's some strange stuff that happened during the arrest. This is the 28-year-old black woman living in Texas. Police say that she hanged herself while being held in the prison. Maybe there wasn't video of this one, because I know we had some similar cases in which there was video. Now, police say that she hanged herself, and the family said that that would never happen, and there were questions. Were the police lying? It would seem that the police were the only ones who really knew what happened because she was in their custody. The arrest was a little shady. The officer said something like, "I will light you up," after unsuccessfully trying to pull her out of her car. And if you look into the arrest, it seems that she was agitated. It seems that she was on edge. It's kind of weird, a weird interaction. Not a typical arrest by any means. But, what happened afterwards, regardless of what happened during the arrest, you don't leave someone in a cell to die.
Right.
Anyway, no crime has been committed, according to a jury, by either the sheriff's officials or the jailers. So
I am not surprised. And I'm not saying I think that that's the right decision. I just think based on what we knew, as Lewis is pointing out, I'm not at all surprised that there were not indictments handed down here.
Yeah. Now, of course, plenty of disappointment here from the family and all of that. Bland's sister, Shantae Needham, said that Sandra had called from her jail saying she did not know why she had been arrested and that an officer had possibly broken her arm. According to Waller County District Attorney Elton Mathias, Mrs. Bland died by asphyxiation after using a plastic bag to hang herself in her cell. Video footage from the jail did not show what happened inside the cell, but did suggest no one entered or left until someone found her unconscious.
Now, are you normally allowed plastic bags when you're in jail cells?
I didn't think so. I don't know how that would end up in there.
Right.
I suppose she just could have had one on her. I don't know.
You're usually, frisked pretty well before you're put in those jail cells. It's hard to imagine. I guess you could hide a plastic bag, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Odd.
So, I maybe we've heard the end of that.
I was going to say, is it the end?
I really don't know. Maybe you could have some type of civil case against the sheriff's officials.
But they were negligent in preventing her from killing herself, as they claim she did. Yeah, no, I think that there's a good chance that we would see a civil case.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway, let's move on. Iranian hackers have apparently penetrated the computers controlling a dam near New York. This happened in 2013. The attack did no damage, according to this report, but revealed information about how computers running the flood control system worked. And so it is believed that these hackers were working for the state, and I guess it's not uncommon to go after kind of like infrastructure type targets. So basically, that was that. I'm not sure how they determined this. There's really not much you can do in the case of in cases like this of hacking coming from other states. I mean, China is always attacking us.
Right.
We identify it, and there's really nothing we can do. In this case, Iran. And not really surprising, but what surprises me is that shouldn't these systems, I understand if they weren't in the first place, shouldn't they be on closed networks? I mean, shouldn't they be completely closed off?
This debate exists, and this came up when we were talking about the United Airlines, the dude that got into the United Airlines controls of the plane through the in-flight Wi-Fi, and a couple people immediately said, "Oh, these should all be closed networks." But from what security experts have told us, it's just not practical in modern day to have it completely isolated. And you can think of with a dam, you say, "Well, yeah, I mean it's just the dam, right? They're on a completely isolated network. That's it." But then you immediately realize all of the different reasons why it needs to be connected to a broader a broader network that controls all dams in the region, and a network that might control all water flow in the region, both dams and other bodies of water. So you very quickly figure out it's hard to really say, oh, it should just be on a closed network and that's it. It's not very practical today.
Well, I suppose, but when it can be hacked that easily, I mean, do we just beef up security? This is interesting because I'm thinking of the things that Carly Fiorina said in the Republican debate, how the government is really far behind, that all the best minds and security experts are working in the private sector.
Right.
And I totally think that's true. There's just seems to be no incentive for the most brilliant minds in cybersecurity and technology or anything like that to be working for the government.
Yeah, I mean but that's not a new thing. For a long time, there's been this idea that, hey, if you really want to make more money, you go into the private sector, whatever field you're in. I don't know that it's different with regard to the security sector. Doesn't mean it isn't a problem, but certainly I think more people would be interested in working for the government if more people felt like the government's influence was much more positive than negative. And even people who are not small government conservatives are concerned about a lot of what the government does. It's probably a factor in more people not wanting to work for the government.
Yeah. Well, you remember, this must have been a year ago, maybe a year and a half. I don't know, maybe even 2 years ago. But we covered that story about how government agencies basically had to relax their drug policies when it came to certain jobs like this, tech jobs,
fields,
cybersecurity,
yeah.
because they were just not even getting the applicants.
Right.
They were getting no applicants because of these, what they thought were these drug policies.
Which at the time I think was, if you had ever smoked marijuana or consumed it in any way, you were immediately disqualified or something like that.
Yeah, and you had to, of course, they ask you about it, and then they drug test you. And
maybe even lie detector.
yeah, maybe. So they realized not very quickly, actually, it took them quite a while, that policy needed to go if they wanted to start having any shot at keeping up with the times. Ridiculous. What can you do? Dave, anything to add?
Well, we should mention today we recorded a 2-part interview, a debate about the Israeli BDS movement, boycott, divestment, sanctions, and it got a little bit heated, and I'm still trying to figure out how I feel about it. We're going to have it starting on tomorrow's show. It's certainly good. I think it went very well.
Yeah.
But whenever we do these debates, invariably when it's a controversial topic, the guests start to depart from the main point of the debate, and you can't always reel it back in immediately because controversial issues don't exist in silos, right? They're related to other things. So I think that we did the best we could to keep it focused. I think it's very, very good, but I'm curious what people will end up thinking about it. And I'm also curious what the guests think about it.
It's interesting how you use a missile reference there to talk about, yeah.
I was thinking a grain silo.
Were you?
Yeah.
Corn, maybe?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, I think it did go very well. And I told Dave afterwards, we basically had to cut them off in the middle of a heated argument because we just couldn't keep it going. We didn't have time.
Not to mention, they continued debating after the debate ended.
Yeah, and we had to cut them off again, even though we weren't even recording.
Right.
And there's not really a sense of closure, and it kind of ends abruptly. But
how can it ever? It's such an issue. It's such a broad issue. There's never a natural point where everybody says, well, I think we've sort of gotten to the end and we've sorted it out and we can now agree to disagree or whatever, right? You just don't get to that point. At a certain point, you just say, hey, this thing is over.
No.
I don't think we figured anything out. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, they're getting agitated, but it is good, and they do cover a lot of ground in the debate. So yeah, it'll be up tomorrow, or at least the first part.
Yeah.
So that's it was good. I think everyone will enjoy that.
Thank you.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.